Everyone, welcome to video 7. Today is March 15th, 2022. I thought I would only be doing one video today because I just did the Goddess Isis video and I went to do something else and none of that stuff works. So I got the message. Today's definitely been strong messages about following Spirit's breadcrumbs instead of doing the things I think I should be doing. So today, or right now, I'm going to channel a woman who has been in my ear since I came across her name in the library. And if you had watched the Goddess Isis video, I explained a little bit about how I am determining or connecting to the women who I am supposed to channel for the month of March, and I'll be honest, into April. I started it with Women's History Month, but I can totally seeing it flying right past that. So I go to the library a lot because the books, they literally talk to me. I don't use a catalog. I don't use any directive unless a friend or somebody had recommended a book that I knew was there. It was like fiction. And even then I'll ask, is there a book here that my higher self or spirit wants me to read? And I'll get yes or no, depending on how that works for you. For me, it's I hear, so I'll hear yes or no. And then I just allow my intuition to guide me. Sometimes I don't think I hit the mark. And then other times I found great books that I would have never found if I hadn't allowed myself to be guided. So I kept hearing I had to go to the library it was last week, and it was pretty cold last week. So I have a habit of not going out when it's that cold. I don't have to go out. So I was like, oh. So Friday I bit the bullet and I went out, and it was late in the library. There weren't a lot of people there, and they pretty much had me peruse the biography section. I have to go back. There was no way I was going to get through all of the women whose energy I could feel around me as I looked over the books. There were definitely some women who, when I picked up their books, they said, no, I'm not ready. So I put them back down. But I did come across quite a few women, some that were very surprising to me, that should be interesting. So one of them was Julia Child, and I know of her, obviously, but that was not somebody that I had thought I would bring through. But then again, I did channel Amelia Earhart with this really beautiful message. So I will open the door for her as well. But I didn't get too far. I started in the A's and I worked my way back. And I didn't get very far before I came across some of the founding fathers, specifically John Adams or John Quincy Adams. And there were books about Abigail Adams. Sorry, but that's a mouthful. And part of this is a discovery for me, and I hope you enjoy that piece. And maybe I'm hoping it's a discovery for you as well. But one of the books that I pulled out was this book. This is Abigail Adams. I have not read this book. I literally picked this up Friday and I was completing another book, so I have not touched this one. But when I pulled the book out, I knew that it wasn't going to go back on the shelf. When I looked at her, I was getting teary-eyed, and I call those soul tears. That's literally my soul trying to tell me that there's something here that I need to explore. Some people get goosebumps. I get what I call soul tears, and some of my clients get that as well. And I knew in that moment, not only did I have to channel her, but that I knew her and that there was a connection that had to be remade with her. So I have not I brought this book home Friday. It's now Tuesday. I have not connected to her. She has been in my ear a lot about wanting to come through and talk. So today I'm going to give her that opportunity. She is not using the deck that everyone else seems to want to use. We're going to use the Higher Dimension deck by Starhawk. She said she thinks the pictures are prettier. So we'll see what comes up with that. But I'm excited for this one. I've been excited for all of them, but there's definitely some connection with this woman that I don't know. We'll see what happens. This is, like I said, I don't know too much about her in this life. Obviously, the two of us had connection. I sensed that she was a dear, dear friend. So we'll see what she has to say. So same as always, she gets 3 cards. I already called her in because I asked her if she wanted to wait till tomorrow, and I heard no. So there we go. So we're gonna let her come through. Now, obviously, she's a founding mother. She's one of the more well-known founding mothers. I have a book. There are a lot of founding mothers that I have never heard of. And I know in the video previous to Goddess Isis that I did when I did the founding mothers is they talked about how there are a lot of women who are unknown. Abigail is not one of them. There were lots of books about her. So I'm just going to state while I pick cards, she just feels, I'm hearing stately, poised, sure of herself, she's saying, righteous, and stern. She's saying, but I could be fun too. I wasn't all business. She's saying towards the end, it was all business. Everything was, it was all hands on deck. It was that important. I just want those who are listening to know that we tried to do everything we could to keep the scales as balanced as possible. In those last couple of months leading up to actual finalization of the Constitution, all hell had broken loose, literally. People were being threatened and murdered, forced to back out of deals, forced to change wording in the Constitution that didn't bring in the true intention. She's saying, I lost dear friends. That I'll be honest that I haven't forgiven them for taking from me. It's like they chipped us off one by one as a way to make sure that we knew the threats that they were giving us were true. And that they wouldn't hold back if we cornered them. Just want you to know, I just want you to know that I hope you know that I did my best. There was definitely not an I, we were a team. But I know right now I'm coming through as my own individual standard, and I want to show up as that. I know me and as well as some others are well written about, and it's time for us to tell our story. Okay, there we go. You gotta give me 3 cards here. I'm seeing horses on cobblestone somewhere. You can hear the horses. Why do I keep getting that card? So I'm not going to chalk that for her. I'm going to let her. She's showing me, I don't know what to call it, but the thing that the horse pulled wasn't a stagecoach because there's no covering, it's open. But two men sitting up front, and there's women in the back. I can see them all dressed in their colonial outfits. I can just see that they're running for cover. We always had to hide our whereabouts. I hated having to be around the assemblies that happened when we were talking about the Constitution, and I had to pretend that I wasn't part of the behind the scenes around the men. And this I'm showing you is just one other instance where we had to duck and run to make it look like that we were not partaking in something behind the scenes, behind our husbands, and that we needed to make out the role that was assumed by us by other men and women. My husband was supportive, but he understood the need to hide the truth of my influence. Who did I channel get these exact same cards for? Okay. Yes, people knew of me. They knew my brass. They understood my position. They understood that I would not allow myself to be demeaned and pushed into the background, that I would always have a voice. But I was still quiet on some of the things. I knew enough to keep something secret in what to talk about and what not to talk about, and who to talk about it around. Just as there is today, there are cliques. And there were then as well. We had to learn who was truly a friend versus who was an enemy, and who was pretending to be a friend, but was really an enemy. And we were surrounded. There was many times when I thought I had a friend, and it turned out to be an enemy. And those things nick at your heart. They make you not want to trust the world, not tap into the world. It helps you not believe in the cause, in the purpose, in the long run. And it weighs on my heart heavy to this day. It weighs on my heart heavy today that I could have done more, that I could have spoken up more, that I should have demanded, that I should have stood up for those who were taken from us physically, those of us threatened, those of us kidnapped. But I chose to stay behind and stand behind my husband to get forth what we had put forth. That was the way I felt, how I could make sure that all of the things that they sacrificed would be remembered or respected. Many of those women are not remembered. They're not respected. Many people don't even know who they are. I know who they are. I remember every single one of them. I talked with many of them, laughed with many of them. Sure, we had a big job to do, but we laughed. We had parties. We were joyful, and we believed in what we were creating. So I'm sorry for all of those who feel like we didn't do enough, that the Constitution was slanted, that it was not portrayed in the way many of you believed it was. That was not my intention. Okay, Abigail. So long time to get cards, and I'm just channeling her. The first two cards I got. Who else did I use this deck for? Did Amelia Hart come through with this deck? I don't remember who I used this deck for. I know that too. So I've used this deck with somebody else that I've channeled of the last 6 videos, this higher perspective Starhawk deck. And I think it was Amelia Earhart. And my shock is because 2 out of these 3 cards are exactly the same ones I got for whoever that was. I don't think it was Mary Magdalene. I don't remember. But I'm curious. Really quick, let me check because I just want to know. And I don't remember. Oh, well, I guess I'm not supposed to remember, and that's fine. I do remember these cards, though. It's pretty obvious. So the 2 cards that are the same that we've seen for someone else, maybe it was for the first one I did. I don't remember. I know at some point I brought through these cards, the Third Eye Portal and the Empowerment card. I have a third one, which I'm going to do them in order. So I got Third Eye Portal first. When we think of the founding mothers, Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, I don't know all their names, so I'll be honest. I think soon I will, but at the moment I don't. We don't think of them being involved in this. Sure, they would be involved in empowerment for sure, but the idea that they somehow were tapped into this. And back then, this stuff was done in the shadows. It was a very, she's saying, religious time where we were, we needed to make like we were going along with the rules of the society gave us through religion. And many of them, I'm going to guess Abigail as well, I'm going to muscle test that in a minute, were from the future. And they came back at that exact time knowing that this or these documents needed to be created as like a starting point. Abigail is from the future. I'm just muscle testing. You can use a pendulum and ask. I know her in the future too. But we don't think of them as this. And this is the third eye. So I'm interested in what she's going to say about this. I have an idea. So many people are focused on opening the third eye. And I think I talked about that in the last video. I could talk one video on its own just on that. But I'm going to let her talk about this third eye because I'm curious what she has to say, obviously. But let's go. She's laughing. Sometimes I think about what people think of us then, that somehow we were alien or that we couldn't relate to modern day aspirations. But many of us had lived in previous and future timelines even then. We had already gone into the future, had already seen what the world would become. It's part of the reason why many of us went back to tweak time, to build a new structure, a new way, a new path, a new runway. So this idea that we were prim and proper, quiet women who minded our own business, minded our roles, minded our stature is only one small window into the truth of who I am. I cannot speak for the other founding mothers, although I do have an idea of who would also find enjoyment in speaking about the third eye. We kept it quiet, but we did talk about this. We knew it was important. Why? Because we needed to see the grander vision. We had to see forward into time to understand what we needed to build then. Think of it like the foundation. We knew the pieces that needed to be in place for the time that you find yourself now. We knew that when we went back in time from your current time, that we would be living in this very strict, regimented female world. And it did very much weigh on us. We had already experienced what it was like to be truly free, to a sense. Believe it or not, with the Constitution in place, when we went back in time, you have more freedom now than you would have at this gateway if we hadn't. But when we went back, it was hard. We had to take on roles, be quiet, stand behind the man. And it was definitely not something that many of us found normal. Because even though at this time and juncture before the Constitution was created, you had more freedom. But going farther and farther into the future timelines from here, women do finally get the freedom that we were created for, equal in God's eyes to all men. And the same with minorities, religions, all of it. But it took so many blood, sweat, and tears to get there. And since we're all world soul travelers, we could go back in time and tweak where things had to change. There are people right now in your current existence that are from the future because they chose to come back to this time to tweak, to make the forward path easier, less bloodshed, less sacrifice, struggle. So when we went back, we had to fit into this role that felt tight. It was like having, she's showing me like a turtleneck around her neck, and it's just squeezing. We didn't have a voice. We didn't have a say. We had certain roles we had to play, and that was it. And many of the founding mothers were much bigger than that, including myself. Being quiet was not my game plan. And my husband and family knew, and they understood, as many of them were from the future as well. My third eye, and the third eye of the other founding mothers and fathers, is what kept us connected to the higher vision of what we were working towards. We needed to understand what would happen if we did something. What would be the result if I did something? Not what would happen to the collective per se, but what if I did this? If I built this, what would that shift in the future to make it easier for people of all races, all genders, for all that were created by God? So while many of you think of us as being very prim and proper, staunchy, stern, we had this vision that, yes, we had received from the spirits that we were working with, but many of us were working with a grander vision that went through time, that was building on a foundation to quicken getting to a place of true equality. We knew that the original pass at this didn't quite go right, and we had to go back and tweak. So while you sit here in your current timeline, I'm back in the 1700s tweaking the Constitution, as time is not linear. All is happening at once. And it is through the third eye you start to understand how that all works together. Your current society is so warped on time. Everything is based upon the hour, the minutes, the days, the calendars. But everything is all entwined. And it's through your third eye you start to see the semblance of that and how it all works together and how you fit into that and what your role is in the now that you are experiencing consciously. So I ask you to be open to the ideas that come through your third eye. It can be in dreams, it could be in visions, in meditations. It can just be as you're walking down the street or driving and have a vision. These visions are helping you understand how you exist in the time continuum and why you remember the consciousness now. How you all fit together is all timed out. Tammy talked about finding my book in the library. That was not coincidence. There was a tug from me to her through the time continuum for us to find each other. So I can help her understand why. I already know why. And soon she will know too. But through your third eye is how you start to understand how all those connections work. Yes, you can jump timelines. Yes, you can shift timelines, close timelines. And please, as time goes on, as you heal and grow, you are doing that work to collapse the hardship and the struggle and the sacrifice that came after you. And I work in the past currently to help shift even the now time. I know what was channeled 2 days ago at the Founding Mothers about how many of the founding fathers and mothers are already in physical bodies. Some of us are working from the past, some of us are working from the future, and some of us are working in what you would call the now. But they all link together. They're not operating in separate clauses. It's like playing a violin or an instrument where you pluck a chord and it reverberates in the other chords. It's a symphony, a orchestra, and getting the strings to coordinate and sing beautiful music so they're no longer out of tune. Your country's out of tune. And while I'd love to say that it's just in your now, that string instrument has broken strings, frayed strings, strings out of tune, strings that need to be redone in its entirety, unwound and respun. But know that the strings that are there, as I tweak one, it reverberates out through this web to you in your current time consciousness, as well as to future versions of ourselves. And our souls choose where we each come into consciousness. It's all planned. It's all part of this web, if you will. And I want you to understand that there are other people, myself included, working at different times, different timelines in the past as well as the future, helping. Just like as you tweak your strings and it reverberates out, you also are helping the past and the future. We're all working together at the same time. And your third eye is instrumental. You need to be aware of the higher vision on how you fit into this, how your role connects back through time, through maybe other events, not necessarily the founding fathers and mothers. You may be tied to that, you may not. But there is friends that you have known in other timelines who are working towards the same goal as you. And you are here in this timeline to tweak your violin strings as they tweak theirs to find that harmony and balance, so you can hear the beautiful symphony that those souls are contracted to create. So while you focus on the third eye, just ask for you to be shown how you fit and who you may be working with, and trust the names that come through. Some of them you're not going to know. They may have chosen names that you don't recognize. You can ask if they're from the past or the future. Obviously, from the future, you're not going to know them. But once in the past, you can start to piece that together. When you start to piece that together, you start to remember part of your mission, your soul's mission, and how you may be being molded right now to fit into that. I know many of you feel like you're lost, or you don't know what your soul's mission is, and you're struggling to figure it out. So work on your third eye with the intention of being able to see how you fit into the time continuum, and who's working either in the past, the future, to help you now, but you're also helping them. And when you allow that to come through, you start to understand the higher perspective and what's really happening, and really how much can be changed in a short period of time. Okay. Well, that was interesting. I love man. I mean, I've channeled Mary Magdalene and Goddess Isis, and I work with the energy all the time. And I know a lot of people want to hear from them. I get it. Goddess Isis, I work with a lot. And Mary Magdalene I've worked with as well. But the energy that comes through with what they came through with Amelia Earhart, like I was so grateful for her message. It was exactly what I needed. And the brilliance that's coming through, we've only done one card. I mean, I know who she is, but I don't know who she is. At least I don't remember. Obviously, the two of us are tied, but I don't remember her yet. Just brilliant, 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 brilliant. Okay, so the next card, again, we've had this, the empowerment card. And this woman is riding a tiger. Not a horse, it's a tiger. So she keeps telling me hold the card up. Okay. Many of you believe that you're on this path to be empowered, that you have to find empowerment, that someone has to liberate you in order to be empowered, that you need permission to be empowered. And I want to tell you right now that you are already empowered. You need to learn how to own it. It is a requirement on your path that you own that you are already empowered. No one can take it away from you unless you believe it can. In my many lifetimes, I have lived many different timelines, in the past and the future, and all around time and space. And in all of them, that thing that got me the farthest to my mission, to the thing that I agreed to come in to experience and assist others with, was to make sure I empowered myself. When you empower yourself, you light the light for others to also own their own empowerment. I know you live in a world where empowerment is something to gain, something that you have to achieve or earn, be worthy of. But that's just other people's stuff trying to prevent you from knowing what is already yours. You were born empowered. The minute you screamed or cried, the empowerment came within you from your soul. The two can never be separated. It's only through your upbringing, through the struggles you had as a child or as a teenager or as a young adult or an older adult, that has whittled away this idea that you cannot own your empowerment just as you are. Inside your soul is a beautiful light beyond what you can imagine. I've seen it. When I got the opportunity to come back in this timeline, which I chose not to do, I saw all of you. I saw who was going to be in physical consciousness beings on this timeline. And I knew I didn't need to be there. I knew that my job was better served at another place in the time continuum, because all of you are empowered souls that are needed in order to further tuning this violin. But many of you carry such deep weights, heaviness, feeling like you have to carry the world on your shoulders. This idea that you need to save the world, that saving one isn't enough. But I want you to stop for a moment, because there's only one person you're supposed to save, and it's you. By stepping into the truth of who you are and the mission that you came here to do in this timeline and owning that empowerment or riding that tiger, you light up the empowerment of other people. Back in my day that you know me from, I was empowered, and I did not let anyone tell me different. Even in the times when we knew we had to hide, where I knew I needed to keep my mouth shut, I was still empowered inside. I just knew I needed to be quiet for a moment, and nothing of that took my empowerment away from me, because I knew the minute I could slide into that and be open about that, that it would be there, because that's who I am. And people knew I was brass. They knew not to cross me. But I also knew I had to play a role in order to keep my husband in good graces in the process of creating the Constitution. I need you to feel empowered. I need you to feel as though inside of you, that light that's growing and has been growing, has been calling you. There are people in the past who are working for this mission that need you to feel empowered, including myself. I don't need you to just carry the violin and arbitrarily pluck it from time to time. I need you to feel empowered that you matter in creating the harmony that needs to happen. There isn't just one violin. There are multiple violins. Some of them playing in tune now, some not quite in tune but close, and some are way off. And this harmony and balance that I am working towards, as well as the founding mothers in different time spaces, as well as founding fathers, are a requirement that you take up your violin and you start to tweak the strings and start to own your empowerment, and know that You don't even need someone to tell you. You know which ones need to be tweaked. And I know it's scary, this idea that you're picking up this instrument that many of you have never touched in this lifetime. I'm not telling you to play violins, but it's still an instrument that of these strings, if you will, that tie us to each other, that I'm asking you to play. And the first violin you need to play is your own. On these things that fly through the sky that I miss, that no longer exist in this past time existence, and airplanes. That's what they tell you to do first. If there's an emergency, take care of you first, right? And then assist. It's the same thing. It starts with you. You want to be empowered? Say it now with me. I am empowered. Say it again. I am empowered. I am limitless. I'm empowered to be me. I'm empowered to be my unique self. And I am ready to own my purpose. No more excuses. No more dawdling. No more stuckness. No more excuses, complaining. It's time to own it. If not now, when? How many times have you told yourself, well, if this, oh, but I can't. It's time to own it. You want to be empowered, own it. It's already inside of you. And the minute you hit that switch, everything starts to happen. The strings start to move. You start to tweak your own harmony. And in that harmony, you connect to the other violins that you're supposed to connect to help create their harmony. And it just keeps going, and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. Stop working towards empowerment. Own it. Okay. Again, she's very feisty. It's just laughing. I am, and I mentioned this before about channeling Goddess Isis and Mary Magdalene. And I will bring Goddess Isis through again because her work with me is very important, and maybe Mary Magdalene as well. But I think I'm going to do more of these. These are, man, good. I don't even have words. She has lots of words. I don't have words. But I'm just, she's talking about empowerment. Poof. That's how I feel doing these. I am so grateful for not just the guidance, but like I was being nudged to do this, and I definitely was like, oh, I can't do that. And even with Abigail, I was like, I mean, Amelia Earhart, I knew what she did, right? Abigail, I mean, there's books. This book is not thin. And I will read it, of course, but like I didn't really remember it too much. So it's totally a trust. And I know that in the last video with Goddess Isis, she talked about how we have to be okay with being in the journey to the unknown. And this is what that is for me. I mean, I'm literally tapping into energy that people who I haven't had any interaction in this life in. And it's just beautiful. This series. So if you still have recommendations of people you want to maybe see if they will come through, I will tell you that there's been one or two that people have asked for and I've heard no. So they're either not ready or they're not for me to channel, and that's okay. But I know that I already have a list of like 10. I don't remember who they were exactly. some of them from the US, some from Europe, some from Egypt, obviously. But this has just been great. I'm only on video 7. So this last card is forgiveness. This can be a hard card for some people because I'll just add this real quick before I channel her. You know, I was raised Roman Catholic, and the version of forgiveness that they taught us was not the version of forgiveness that I have come to know as I have journeyed on my journey and have been shown by Source. In my Roman Catholic days, we were told that forgiveness was something that we could only give ourselves if someone gave us permission to give it to ourselves. No. I remember sitting in confession, having to sit with this screen in front of me where there's a priest on the other side that I knew but didn't know, where I had to basically tell him all the things that I had done that were considered bad. And he would then tell me whether or not I've been forgiven, and then what penance I needed to pay in order to receive the forgiveness. And that sets up a whole trajectory of really bad beliefs around what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not a tool or a weapon. It was literally, to me, when I think back about that, was weaponized. Like I had to be good enough to be forgiven, or that I had to get permission to be forgiven, and that it could only come from a priest, right? Or God or Jesus, whichever way you choose. And I remember when I finally got into this and Spirit was showing me the true definition of what forgiveness was. And I thought, what? The forgiveness is really about you only. You do not need permission from anybody to forgive. It is one of to me, the most courageous, badass, bold things you can do is to forgive somebody that's hurt you. And why would you do that? Many people say, oh, let them off the hook. They've already moved on. Probably have forgotten even about what they've done to you, depending on what it is, obviously. And they have no remorse. Why are you betting your emotional stability and happiness waiting for somebody who hurt you to hurt you every day that you hold onto that emotion? They just win every day. And forgiveness is about letting go of that emotional attachment so that you can move on with your life without having to relive that emotional thing every day. And you learn from it. And you can move on, and you can show whoever hurt you how strong you really are. But you can't do that when you're waiting for that person to say they're sorry or tell you that you're worthy of forgiveness or you need permission or whatever it is. You just perpetuate your own hurt. They're not hurting. They've already moved on. So you forgive so that you move on and show them really what you're made of. You know, we talked about the empowerment. Forgiveness is empowerment. So I'll let her come through now. I'm very passionate about forgiveness, obviously, because I know what the Roman Catholics teach. I know other religions may be different, but that one was very much about guilt and shame. So forgiveness was something you had to earn. Yeah, no. But I will let her come through now. I see 2 women now. Who else is here? Abigail, so no, wait, it's my turn. Okay. No. Forgiveness. This has to be one of the hardest things for humanities to embrace. It is like a little teeny package that you all have tied up. It has to be special circumstances or special occasion for you to open it and allow yourself to experience the gift of it. And I understand that a lot of that is cultural programming, religious program. We've been through the same thing. But one of the biggest things that you can do for that violin you're supposed to play is to forgive. And every time you forgive, those strings vibrate and tune themselves faster than you can imagine possible. It frees so much. You hold so much tightness and angst and anger and guilt and sin and all of the stuff that they teach you. And that strings are so tight so that when you tweak them for empowerment, they break. And you say to yourself, see, I can't do it. I tried to be empowered, but I couldn't do it because look. And really the reason is because you need to lighten those strings, to stretch them, to allow them to have that embodiment and allow the energy to move through them. And that means you need to let go of all the strife that you hold towards events, people, and yourself. You must remember yourself always in the equation. You can forgive others and tweak those violin strings and you'll start to get some movement. But forgiving yourself will go beyond what you could imagine. The vibration of the strings can change in an instant. Now, I come from a time that you all remember where there's a lot of things to forgive. How we treated minorities, how we treated Blacks, Indians, how women were treated, how we treated the land, how we treated the knowledge that the Indians gave us, that then we turned on them. The wars, the battles that were fought, the lives that were lost. The fights that we've been perpetuating for 200 plus years in order to get some semblance of true equality made. And as we bebop through time, into the past, into the future, we must deal with the events of our past that have caused us to carry loads where we feel like we need to carry that forward. It just slows us down. It prevents you from being able to do the things that you came here to do. One of them was to offload that stuff. You can't carry pain into the future and want something different. It doesn't work. Just look at the last 200 plus years between the time of the Constitution and now. Is there less pain than there was then? No. It may look different, but yet still the same pain. It's being perpetuated. The same people who feel marginalized back then still feel it today. While they have some freedom, it's still nowhere near what it should be and what we intended it to be. And while systems and structures and documents need to be adjusted to be able to allow for that, you must also tweak your own strings and heal the wounds. Who have hurt you in the past in this harmony and orchestra of violins that you are playing for? Some of you as part of the founding father-mother mix and some not, but still none the same. You still have to heal the strings. restring them, unstring them, tweak them, tune them, allow them to be more fluid and flowing so that the harmony comes back. If you just pass from lifetime to lifetime without fixing that, you come back with less strings, less string to string, and then you just leave another lifetime with more strings to fix the next one until your violin is broken in half. Remember, you have the power to do this. No one else has to do this for you. You just need to give yourself permission to do it. Your higher self, spirit, source will all help you. If you're tied to the founding mothers and fathers, will help you. You understand what your role is in the greater vision. But you must forgive. You can change beliefs all day long. You can release the trauma, but you must forgive not only those that have hurt you, but those that you have hurt. I am no angel. I have done things that I wish I hadn't done. And many of them, I realized too late that I had done wrong. And I have gone back and worked through those things to heal my soul so I can be a better person, so that I can make right in the future. You can't make right in the future if you can't deal with the pain that you have caused in the past or people have caused you. And the freedom in there, that remaking of you, comes through the energy of forgiveness. Letting it go doesn't serve you to keep carrying it forward. You just hurt you, and you just hurt other people because you hurt. Some of you may have been slave owners. Some of you may have been slaves. Some of you may have been Indians who were harmed. But it does no good to carry that forward, to keep carrying that forward, keep carrying it forward. We truly want to make systems and structures that are balanced for all. We have to learn from the past, not hurt from the past. They are not the same thing. And the idea that you need to carry both at the same time is just perpetuating the same cycles over and over and over and over again. Learn from our mistakes in the past. And God, there were many. So many of them that I myself sometimes have a hard time looking in the mirror to know that I had done. But I learned from those mistakes, and I know what needs to be tweaked so that can never happen in the future. You must be willing to face the hurt. And whether it's from your past life or from an ancestor, it needs to be done. You just keep compiling it forward. You need to shift. You can shift that now, or you can choose to come back in a past timeline and do it there. But in this lifetime, you have the opportunity to clear backwards and forwards. The energy is high enough now where you can do that. Where I can come and talk to you, as well as many other women from the past who have grand visions for you all. I know who is in lineup for this series. And I can't wait for you to hear them all. You've just gotten a tiny bit. But I need you to string that violin, and I need it to be fluid. I don't need it to happen overnight. I just need you to start playing with the strings and figuring out which ones you need to tweak, which ones need to be restrung, which ones need to be healed, which ones need to be forgiven, which ones need to own empowerment, so that you can play your violin, inspire others to do the same, so that harmony, that soul grouping that you're part of can find that sweet spot. Many of you are so close to finding that sweet spot. And it excites us and keeps us going and wanting to do this. It can seem very disheartening in your world today, but you, while everything's happening around you, you can still tune the violin. Keep going. As you start to play with that violin and start to do the forgiveness and letting go and all of that, it will become easier, and you'll start to see the lessons behind the hurt that then can propel you forward to a better and better life for you and others. So thank you for listening to this. I'm so grateful that I've had the chance to come through. I like to say this the last time you hear from me, but I doubt it. As you can see, I'm very driven to help shift this timeline so the stuff that we've put in the past can move into a better future for all. So, yeah. I hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Again, this has been such an honor to do this. Everyone I do, I'm more excited about bringing through the next one. She'll be back with some other message, I'm sure. And there are, like I said, other founding mothers. We may get a founding father or two to come through. We'll see. But wow. Who else is feeling called to play their violin? And it doesn't matter whether you have picked up the violin and started to play it or not, or play your strings. Obviously, she's not talking about a physical violin. She's talking about how she's talking about you being an instrument and you tuning your own strings. Even if you haven't done that, it doesn't matter. You can start now. You can start right in this minute with a small step, with just agreeing to start to tune your strings. And maybe you can forgive some people that are easy to forgive before you get to the hard ones. Maybe you need to honor your empowerment, and that helps. Whatever it is, you're going to know. And if you allow your spirit team to come in, they'll show you what you need to shift to start to really get those strings to move. And what happens is when you can get all those strings to move with that vibration that is in tune for you, beyond helping others, you're in alignment, you're in flow, everything starts to just happen. The abundance comes, the opportunities come, the health comes. It's that sweet spot that we all crave. That's what she's talking about. But by doing that, you then help other people's violins get tuned. We all work together. But right now, with this message for today, it's mostly, it all starts with you, with us, each individually, including myself. So I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.